Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Mr. Vijay Kumar. I hope I am audible to everybody. Good afternoon, friends. Our chief guest, Shri K. Vijay Kumar, distinguished members of the audience, ladies and gentlemen. I am aware that a large number of police officers of all ranks, both serving and retired officers from across India, have logged in today, including some of the heads of police forces and some very senior police officers. A very warm welcome to every one of you. You are aware that the Indian Police Foundation has been holding a series of discussions on matters of professional interest. And I'm very grateful to all of you for providing your unstinted support to the cause of the foundation. Now, as you are aware, one of the important purposes of the Indian Police Foundation is the generation of ideas for the improvement of policing, and also to spread the awareness about the good practices in policing being practiced across the country. In fact, a large number of people among you are doing fantastic job, and this good work needs to be spread, needs to be scaled up across the country. So any one of you who would like to present your innovative stories or ideas or any topic of compelling interest to policing, you are welcome to present it on this platform. Every week we are meeting here. It can be in the form of a talk, a conversation, a discussion, or workshop, or in any other format. We are using a StreamYard platform so that these events could be live streamed on Facebook and on YouTube for easy accessibility and unlimited participation. So I would request you to watch out for interesting programs every Saturday from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. In fact, next Saturday, we have Madam Renuka Mishra, ADGP UP, speaking on recruitment reforms in the police. Now, today, I am extremely happy to welcome Shri K. Vijay Kumar, who has very kindly consented to deliver this important talk. Shri Vijay Kumar needs no introduction in this audience. As a police officer par excellence, he left his indelible mark in every position that he has held, be it as the DG of CRPF, as Director National Police Academy, as DGP of Tamil Nadu, as Police Commissioner of Chennai, and a number of other very important assignments. His leadership role in providing a closure to the notorious Veerappan saga is very well known to all of us. We are also very well aware of his outstanding contributions of service in the state of Jammu and Kashmir in terms of border management and countering terrorism, and also bringing peace in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. So now, coming to today's topic, you are all familiar with the general context of this discussion. The context is that of the tremendous policing challenges, the challenges and complexities that confront today's policing, especially with the advent of the internet and the mobile phone technology, the social media, and also the aggressive real-time electronic media, 24/7 electronic media, which governs all of us. We have been witnessing tremendous social changes that has shaken our societies, our youth, the nation, and the entire humanity, in fact. Definitely, this turbulence and disruptions in the environment are having a direct impact on police and policing. When such huge winds of change are lashing, it is the ethical principles and values of individual police officers that will help in keeping the ship steady. That is why we thought it may be a good idea to generate a conversation on the questions of ethics and professional hygiene. Today's talk is intended to generate an opportunity to reflect, to introspect, and to focus on our fundamental values. So Shri Vijay Kumar will speak to us and share his thoughts on the importance of personal ethics and professional hygiene. These are like the compass or direction finders for officers who have to find their way through the complex minefields of policing. I'm sure that every one of us will get benefited by his talk. Shri Vijay Kumar will be speaking for about 40 minutes, and it will be followed by a question answer session of about 20 minutes. Those of you who want to ask questions, please type out your questions on the comments window on your right. And at the end of his talk, Shri Vijay Kumar will try to answer as many questions as possible within the time available. So may I now request Shri K. Vijay Kumar to deliver his address. Thank you.
Thank you, Ram. You have put a heavy burden, but I will try to keep it light, and I hope to shave off some time from the 40 minutes you are given. It's COVID times, and 2% of our forces, naturally being at the forefront along with the doctors, were infected. And in any case, in most of the police acts, infectious diseases was already on our plate. We are like a man for all seasons. So I'm very proud to have been a part of you. Lots of guys take pot shots at the police, humor in uniform, and on the guise of humor in uniform. We had this situation, it's a light one, but actually it happened in one of the most affected states a few years ago. A senior cop was sitting and pointing out, I've got a lot of these fellows, Maxwell's creeping up from the south. I need more AK-47s. I need more Central Police Forces. I need this and that. Before sunrise wish list, the senior Babu stopped him and said, oh, they are armed the most, you said? Did you ask for the gun license? So immediately the top cop shut up. He was astonished. He said, this man is more serious threat than the bomber wielding and the fellows with the poison-tipped arrows. I hope I am not that distant. I am not in that league, away from the complexities of policing and talking through my hat. I joined the service in 1975, and many of you would have been born after that. And many joined service after I retired, or retried as they say. So that is my handicap, foremost handicap number one. The second handicap is the inability to see you in flesh and blood. The compulsions of the times and the digital front. One feels like a suspect in an interrogation room with no idea who's watching. I am generally aware my potential audience today, people like Atul Karwal, who has looked down on the earth from Mount Everest, superbly fit ITBP, DGP, Deswal, or Tamil Nadu Shailendra Babu, Ronnie and Brainy other types, Sagar from Madhya Pradesh, triathlon experts, Ironman, Krishna Prakash, Ravinda, a whole lot of them from the BSF and CRPF. I also think of Negi, my BSF CO, who himself is an Everester, who put during Kargil days the troops up front, so much so that was the only frontier unmolested by the Pakis. Why was I called to talk, I wonder? Is it seniority, or is it due to the positive bias of IP, Indian Police Foundation Chief?
ഇത് ഒരു മണിക്കൂറോളം ഉണ്ട്.
About seniority, the terrible ruler of Rome, Caligula, wanted to make his horse a consul, that is a member of the parliament, because he was senior and he was familiar. Frederick the Great, on the other hand, he was meeting his generals, and many of them potential generals, maybe the brigadier equivalent or whatever, they wanted to become generals, and they said they're senior and eligible. You know what he told them? If seniority alone is a criterion, my personal horse is senior to all of you. So much for seniority. So I think my guess is that he chose me because of a positive bias. I happen to be a founder member of Indian Police Foundation. I just added to the fire in Mr. Ram's belly. All the ideas were his and he was there. I just only patted him and said, come on, let's do it. And thereafter, I think I slipped out. Thank you, Ram. I happen to be a founder member of many, or fellow founder member rather, of SPG, STF, Special Security Group in Tamil Nadu. I think it's become an addiction or a habit. I'm not saying I'm a seer or a visionary, but it happens. So I owe it to you, Ram, that today I'm here with all of you. I owe it to the BSF, CRPF, the Tamil Nadu Police, and other forces which carried me on the shoulders for so long. So anecdotes matter to me. When I was in the BSF in Srinagar, I used to hear of one very brave man called Tyagi. He was a rich fellow, but he was a commandant, and his wife, only time Mrs. Tyagi landed up in the valley was to pick him up whenever he was injured, and that was not infrequent, it was quite often. So when I talk about anecdotes of the good old days, you may all add a bucket of salt, like you do when you are a special branch inspector, or your adjutant tells you are simply superb. I said add salt not because what I say are all untrue, but because times are changing fast. I am going to say there will be shifting storms, actual, virtual, or digital. The need to hold fast is important. The compass needle may go haywire in all directions, but the pivot itself is very steady. It stays at the same place. You are the pivot. You are at the dead center. So the first one is storm-proofing oneself. I am talking about not the petty domestic affair or something in the neighborhood. I am talking about the transfer storm. Right at the start as ASP, I did 6 postings. This is not to give you that I did it, no, but this is not a matter of distinction. 6 postings: Kanyakumari, Dindivanam, Pattukottai, Trichy, Serbian, and Trafficman. I don't know how many of you did 6 postings as an ASP. In UP some years back, I think some of the SPs beat that record. I was thoroughly stirred but not shaken. I was simply transfer-proofed. And I was at home, watched long. We have been here for 6 months. TSC took the frequent transfers as a good thing. 2-point LTCs each year virtually. It's like that was a strike rate. You may also get a disturbance allowance. The adage or the axiom in Tamil came to mind. For munching free sugar cane, you get paid to. Karumbu tinna kuliya is the saying. So I seemed to be not being aware of what it is and going around. When I was busy subdivision hopping, another colleague of mine was rotting in the same place. Coming from eastern UP, Madras itself was deep south enough for him, and he was posted to a place called Koilpatti, a prestigious ASP subdivision, 500 kilometers for the south. After each long earned leave, he will hope that he will be shifted, but like a boomerang, he always went back to the same subdivision. One day, a veteran MP who wanted something to be done got very annoyed with him and met him. And in a huff, he told him, if you are like this, I will get you shifted. This officer leapt from his chair, caught him before he exited the door, and pleaded, please do it, I will be grateful. The old man left a state of shock, and this really happened. Later here, the same officer got a call from Raj Bhavan. I am talking about transfers and postings and how they should not shake you. It can steer you, but it should not be shaken. This officer got a call, and the governor himself was doing the interview for his ADC. This officer did not somehow want to get into the job. He made a parting observation. Sir, one small thing. When the air conditioner is on, I tend to sneeze non-stop and my running nose never abates. And this gets worse in cars. Now the interviewer was aghast, traumatized between two thoughts of a AC Mercedes-Benz or going in a non-AC Mercedes-Benz is one, and then in the AC Mercedes-Benz run with a sneezing ADC with no social distancing is not a great option. Then, as things happen, I was summoned for a similar interview by the same gentleman. I consulted my transfer guru, this officer, and I tried to bluff my way through. I don't think I was adept in doing that. I got caught. And I was posted as ADC. I also was not very keen to be there. MGR was recuperating in America those days, and so the governor was the total boss. My DGP, V.R. Lakshminarayan, brother of V.R. Krishna, a great man, but even he could not help. He said, I can't help you, Vijay, you may have to join. Luckily, the SPG orders came, and I was rescued from there. I am just mentioning, by the way, that these things, you may like a job, may not like a job, but you don't get completely shaken. I have offered to serve in all sorts of places, STF, Kashmir, but never asked for a specific posting. The only exception is NPA. When a chance of a sponsor making an offer came my way that I could be sponsored, I said yes. I hope I have confessed and sufficiently confused you. A healthy outlook I took for being thrown around, and the best thing is you tell yourself, I am good, not that I am unwanted here, but I am wanted more in the other place. That would be a better philosophy for you, because that is what I followed. I never lost anything. What later it struck me as a fact was the transfer could be a weapon of punishment. It's a tool of torture. Thus alerted, I protected my turf like a tigress looking after its cub. I would not allow anybody to interfere with postings. I am telling you the truth that except Jayalalitha ji, who by omission or mistake posted 2 inspectors when I was commissioner, and I had a thing to point out to her that you can shift me but not my inspector, madam, when alone one-to-one. She took it gracefully, but she did not reverse the order, but she never interfered. We had titans, MGR, Karnanidhi, and Jayalalitha ji, but none of them could touch my turf. But suspension was another thing. In 2 cases, my turf was disturbed. DC was suspended for some technical issue in the crime branch in city when I was commissioner. Then in the SSG, when I was the chief bodyguard, one officer was had to be suspended, or she almost issued the suspension and then involved me there, because he annoyed the lady minister by his rigid posture. So in executing your professional task, sometimes you have this professional task. But basically what I am trying to say is, you have to look after. Of course, as ADGP Law and Order, I was heading the establishment board. As per the Prakash's case, that board recommendation is final. But I don't know whether behind my back some cases were sneaked. But consciously, as far as the selection is concerned, I had a very clear ABC rating of all my DSPs. And as far as I knew, it was not done with my consent or clear conscience or knowledge. So sermon number 1, if you are transfer proof early in career, you will lose the fear of places. True, you can't get rid of all fears and phobias in one life. Even Genghis Khan had a fear of being bitten by dogs. That did not stop him from being one of the greatest or the owner of the largest real estate or the emperor. In CRPFs, it is even different frontiers. Kadungla to Morakchung to Kupada to Dandakarnia, the shifting terrain. They also face the additional problem of court of inquiry. A court of inquiry and consequent suspension. This threat is always there. Keep these 2 phobias away and you will be much stronger. Sermon number 2, policing today spans 3 centuries. As I always say, as the experts say, which I have copied, 19th, 20th and 21st centuries. Spanning spanning both the good old world and the brave new world. Chicken theft coexists with cyber threat. In 1995, by moving the mouse, a chap called Nick Leeson, this was more than 20 years ago, imagine, he sucked clean the Barings Bank. I think $1 billion or pounds was sucked away, and Barings Bank, one of the oldest banks of Scotland, crashed. Then he was in Singapore. Singapore gave him a long sentence plus lashings on his backside. They have the caning expert there. And now robots have taken over the job. Like microwave, you set and say 1 minute, 200 degrees. You can set the number of dishes in 30, in 5 minutes, and so on. That means every 1 minute you'll have 6, every 10 seconds you'll have 1 with metronomic precision. And an American was also caught in Singapore. Now, this is an important thing because he was awarded 6 lashings. And America took it very, humiliated. Clinton, the president, rang up. But despite his intervention, the only concession was number of lashings were reduced. A discount was given from 6 to 4. So a discount of 2 for the president of US. Imagine Singapore. That is a modern Sparta. This is a point about crime and punishment, a great lesson for other things. In fact, Lee Kuan Yew, when he was PM, he sent a team to India to study the Indian administrative police and other services and the CRPF. That time it was CRP mainly. And he followed many models, including the Indian, and look at their stance. Now, looking at the spectrum of crime, I have my own acronym, which somehow it's not going viral. I don't know why. So this is the RIBJAR, the violet to red. I will just explain. RIBJAR consists of the violet. Instead of violet, I call it the violent crime, which is a street crime. The broken window theory, that if you don't fix the small issues, it is going to bloom up into a bigger one. It's absolutely, it's vindicated. You have seen it in your own lives. So street crime is very important. It will remain important even in the 22nd century. NYPD chief Brayton, you have heard of this Brayton, in 1995, the same year that Barings Bank came down, he got to the top of the world. He was one of the top police officers for controlling crime in the trains, in the streets, and so on. But he lost his job because he appeared at the Time magazine. And Giuliani, the mayor, did not like it a bit. But the point is, street crimes are going to be relevant for all ages. However modern you become, however sophisticated, however much of science and technology comes, street crime is a fact of life. Then you've got the I. Here the I stands not for indigo, but for the invisible crime, which is economic crimes, the dark web and so on. It is only worse. Now you've got the blue. Blue-collar crime, you don't require any expatiation or explanation. And then you have the green. The green will indicate the MC method cases, the gas from neighborhood or the fire from neighborhood or for something you have not originated. It troubles you. The ecology. The blue waters are going, the avalanches or the icebergs are melting. And then you have the green mountains are changing and problem for the future. So all crimes connected to ecology is going to be more and more important. It is not directly policing in Kaki, but definitely it will have an impact. It will lead to problems and issues which will have again an impact on the police. You have the yellow, which stands for yellow literature, pornography, human trafficking, body parts robbing, body parts selling, and the works. And now the orange. Here you may like to think for a minute. Orange is neither yellow or ambient color. It has got the elements of both. It is somewhere in between color. I'm talking about the in-between offenses. For example, workplace harassment between the employee, between the husband and spouse, which happens behind the door, the domestic kind of violence. Custodial issues between the policemen who are charged with something, that will come under this orange, which is very, very expanding area. Then, of course, you have the red, where the blood is spilling. Wagner said, the war without blood is like beer without alcohol. I mean, his own observation. By red, I mean crimes of radicalism. The Maoists, for example, insurgents in all over, and terrorists in J&K and so on. And in short, it's a meat grinder that states and CRPFs constantly cope with. It may require multi-tier special agents, special forces, and everything that is special, in addition to the police station level intelligence. That is where people like Omle, who stopped the Kasab, is important. Street level policing with multi-layer or multi-tier policing at expert level. In handling this rainbow, you have more than 11,000 police stations trying to be connected with CCTVs and so on. Another 3,000-4,000 will be joined. But they have not reached where we should be. I hope it happens. You know, some years ago, one of our officers, Sangaram Jangir, he had only half a fragment of a fingerprint, and which tallied with the fingerprint in Agra, and he was slogging it out in Delhi, Agra, Haryana, looking for the very violent rapist dacoit gang who is to come and commit offenses, serial offenses, 3-4 offenses along the highway and disappear. He busted this case thanks to the hard work. But with intelligence of a different nature, with the missions helping us in future and all the stations connected with each other, this conventional wisdom will be replaced. It cannot be completely taken over, but it will be substantially replaced. So this is the RIBJAR or the spectrum in which you will see Kaki, whether it is IPS or whether it is CRPF, you will play a lead role, border control, border management, places like Kardungla where the human life itself is a threat, ITBP. And once you stay in that high mountains of that level where oxygen is very, very scarce, your memory power comes down. Whereas for the other forces, even the army, the duration has been substantially reduced for Sialchi and other places. In Kardungla and other places, there is a lot of improvement, but I remember some cases where the guys forget about the family member's name. He doesn't remember his wife's name, child's name, and so on. So this was my experience during the BSF days. I went to some remote posts and found this. I was stunned by the kind of dedication of these kind of guys. That is the kind of, that is the nature of Kaki. I will mention shortly about the science and technology part as a challenge, opportunity, and threat. So challenge, opportunity, and threat, I will put as an acronym. I'm very fond of acronym because I'm able to remember it. So that I don't easily forget it. COT. So COT, challenge, opportunity, threat. Sitting far away, you trigger a bomb in Spain, Madrid 2004. The government was thrown out on the basis because you could not handle that violence. So increasingly, the external threat, internal threat have coalesced or merged or juxtaposed and are commingled. So that is where we say the seam is removed. So internal security and external are inseparable. The budgets of internal in many places have exceeded the budgets of external. Harari is a famous author. He writes very scary books like 21 Ideas of 21st Century. Then he has written a book called Homo Deus. Homo stands for Homo sapiens and Deus stands for God. So the new God is going to be man and mission put together. Man's intelligence and mission's supreme intelligence together. It's going to be a very, very formidable thing. And he says something interesting. In future, based formula, companies, when they make the audit, they are going to favor, just like our nepotism, somebody's uncle, somebody's nephew, etc., being made a favorite or for appointment. They will look after and they will attend to and approve only algorithm-based companies. This kind of, what you call the mission nepotism is going to be likely. A listless bloke in the outback of somewhere can combine aluminium, magnesium, scandium, and he has already made 3D motorbikes. Now, what stops him from making something more dangerous? So, unless we harness technology and if we keep idle, your adversary is definitely going to do so. So, it's better that we adopt. Border patrol, definitely a lot of new improvements happen. Much more need to happen. Dogs and geese have been traditionally our partners in border patrol. The geese alerted the Romans' arrival to the Gauls. And in the geese were doing patrolling even till very recently. So now the drones, very important. Drugs were being delivered, hand-delivered through the windows in the night to jail inmates, not as a normal person. So drones can do a lot of things. Neighborhood watches, again missions, TV, CCTVs, and so on. Mahendra Reddy has done a marvelous job in Hyderabad. I think he's almost pushing about 1 million CCTVs, highest after perhaps London, anywhere in the world maybe. Now there is a person called Panatar. He is talking about Cyber Pearl Harbor. Sometime back, 20 ships which are going near Crimea, they went helter-skelter because they got all the GPS was somehow meddled with. So if you sit and tinker with something, you can many missions can go wrong. Artificial intelligence, according to McKinsey, the impact is nearly 3,000 times more than industrial revolution. It's a geometrical kind of a frightening ratio. Science and technology, therefore, can be a boom or a bane. This artificial intelligence can, for instance, detect cancer. It will also help substantially in crime detection. Also, it spawned new crimes. So they are like two sides of the same coin. No wonder Elon Musk of Tesla said artificial intelligence is more dangerous than nukes. Now, about artificial intelligence and ethics, I will say a point because ethics keeps coming back in all these modernity debates. What stand, the question was, what stand will a driverless car or the auto car take when it sees a child crossing the road, if the choice is between killing the child and saving the owner from a fracture? This is an ethical question. I believe the child may lose in this race, in this bargain. That is why 2 years ago, Bill Gates met others, all the top guys, all the geeks, they went in a secret conclave in Silicon Valley. What were they discussing? They were talking about how far the AI should go. What are the dangers implicit? The focus was on ethics, ethics. In today's my chat, my sermon, ethics will come back. So therefore, I want to underline, this is what the thinking of those so-called scientists and experts and techno geeks. It's the same debate, old religion or science debate, morality and modernity debate, the fast and furious versus the fastidious debate. The same debate is happening inside most of us. What should our stance? How do we cope with ecology? When I say ecology, I mean the current environment around us, a professional ecology. The technology can technology replace the CRPF and the non-armed state police? Yes, most likely in some of the low grade, not well trained grade, not well qualified grade people, not by rank, but by individual qualification, there is a threat by the machines. But police job cannot be completely taken over by a machine. This is what Economist magazine has done a deep study and said. But as well, the big trucks cannot be completely taken away. All the other taxis in New York, these AI, these machines can take over, but not the big trucks because they require a very subtle manipulation or maneuvering. So also nurse's job cannot be fully taken away. So also hairdresser's job, personal trainer's job, doctor's job, and we fall in the category. So the threat is not complete, but threat is very much near the door. So what is the thing we can do? We have to upgrade our teams. We have to retrain for the new ecology. Otherwise, the surroundings are going to threaten us. We talked of technology as a challenge, opportunity, and threat. The second COT, that is a challenge, opportunity, threat, is media and social media. Earlier days were different. Newly married, I will talk about my own this thing without the tom-tom. My first Diwali is very important, significant even in Tamil Nadu. The first Diwali is considered Tala Diwali. The whole night I was going around running amok, made a record station of booze. I neither got trolled for acting in a bad spirit or as a spoil sport, nor got likes for the record station. I only got a nasty query in my weekly diary on some technical point. It's like a tree falling in Amazon. Nobody sees it, nobody notices, no news. But you had your quietness, you had your placed turf, and you had your autonomy. Today, it's quite possible, you manage it well, you do a routine, good Samaritan job, and get million likes, and you will go to the top of the world. Things can take you skyway, but for doing something with conscience, and you can get digitally mauled and hung dry. This is the situation, conundrum of today. Our days, we had autonomy. Our telephones were black and chunky, and you could use it as a weapon if you can lift it. Its brown cord was, it could be used as a belay in mountain climbing. Your boss had to virtually hurdle through 2-3 exchanges if he wanted to reach you. By then, the problem would have been most probably solved. By a flex of time, initiative, or most probably a daroga. Or similarly, the darogas equivalent the battalions of the Havildar Major. What innovative, ingenious tribe they have. The Havildar Major was the life of a battalion. That is why, in US, for the correlations between the shortage of surgeons and the fall in the discipline in the barracks and the morale in the barracks was found too strong because of surgeon shortage. The whole battalion is like a nail. For a nail, you didn't have the shoe. For a shoe, you didn't have the horse, and so on. And they tried to set it right. Oh, darogas, again coming back. What a admirable lot. If Sigmund Freud had studied them, he would have been richer. Now I will tell you about one or two simple things about mob dispersal. It really happened. It is a rope trick which was used by a daroga or a daroga like SP. It happens in Tamil Nadu. Ancient Greeks have used ropes dripping with paint to control the mob. This was thousands of years ago. But this one was a cheaper solution. This happened this way. The rope trick along with the sadhus and the cobras were what once India's identity, very wrongly and distorted. And the sadhus used to strip and reassemble in another one place. They will get into the body here and they, react. Then you had the rope trick. Then you have the cobra. These are our, calling cards. This one I am talking about is a national highway, got marooned with a sea of these mobsters, very adamant, and a very severe latija with firing would have ensued. But very cleverly, they waited for the dawn. In the next district, a very senior officer now, he was SP then, he was waiting with the QRT or QAT or SAT or some action team was ready on its wings. But this officer said, hang on, we will handle it. So as the dust settled, 2-finger thick, 2 black, 1 meter black nylon ropes were strung into the crowd, and the crowd was going helter-skelter, chanting like a mantra, snake, snake, snake. I don't know how it was started, but the crowd was dispersed in no time. I mean, this is a very cost-effective dispersal. It's nothing great, but look at that, the simple application of mind, and without loss to anything, he did it. I heard of another simple story. I mean, these are all very, very ordinary stories. Each of you will be having a book full of such stories, but if you take it, it will be equivalent to the initiative of a great chief executive or some other thing. Akhadas in Maharashtra in one place were very adamant about not moving beyond a religious point. They wanted to hang around there and tensions were rife, and every year there used to be some blood spilling and problems there. 18 or 20 groups were there, so he fixed 1 hour. The SP very cleverly managed that each of you will get 3 minutes before that point and they have to move. He did a simple thing. He installed traffic lights, green, amber, and red. And you have to, before you approach itself, you have to watch it and move. You will get the red, then you will get the amber. By the time you get the green, your eyes were so much focused on the lights and the distraction. The whole thing was gone. All the akhadas just moved. These are all simple things in our planet, but these are all very, very important. The initiative, the correct thinking on the toes. What I was coming to was that in the olden days, the field decided the tactics. What is tactics? Tactics are the small steps. And strategy was headquarters business. Or at least you were left alone. Now, this is an important point. You may like to give it a little more thought. The tractions and tensions of crisis management are changing due to technology. I will repeat. The traction consequent on crisis management are getting distorted because of technology. Now the days of black telephones are gone. Today the umbilical cords are everywhere. Everybody is having a leash, electronic leash, or a tether. Your DIG, IG, ADG, and special DG are watching, including the DG sometimes. I'm talking about special DG, something in light. When the post was introduced in 1997, or 6 or 7, I forget, Mr. Ian Ramohan was joking that they thought that special DG is senior to Mr. Tandon, who was the DG, and the whole crowd standing there got diverted. The throngs landed up in his room, and still they soon realized that special DG is special. Now, instead of being bottom-up, the problem solving, it has become half top-down and half bottom-up. That is what the traction part I was mentioning about. At the middle, they collide and cause new tensions. Earlier, you delegated, and you could hold the guys responsible for what they did. Situational awareness was expected and respected. Now, power was pushed down earlier, and the responsibility is very, very clear, well defined. Two sides of the same coin, power and responsibility. Now it is Bitcoin times, things have got a little hazy now. What is a haze? I told you why, because too many people are watching. So the management, is it the leash, is it the lever in the hands of the last man down the line, or the lever at the top? This is the thing. So this is why I said so. Now, thanks to technology, you are remotely watching the ground, and hence the moral question is, should he not be sharing the responsibility? The answer is difficult. A famous general of the Marines, General Krulak, he mentioned about a situation where we need strategic corporals. Strategy means big decision, because life and death decisions are, you are given the guy a gun at the bottom, Havildar or a constable, so he will take a decision, strategy. Otherwise, don't give him a gun. If you give him a gun, that means he knows how sagaciously, prudently to use it. So he talked about strategic corporal, the man first time used the word, especially in jungle fight, when you send the man, it is the section or the half section which will finally be at the forefront, not the head of the force, not the number two, number three. Therefore, you have to endow him with the decision making. Now, in the circumstance I mentioned a little while ago, where everybody is watching and who should be deciding, so instead of the strategic corporal, are we making the tactical generals? We are not blaming anybody. I am talking about underlining the current situation. Nothing wrong. The times are such. Here again, the guiding star internally is ethics. Then you would do no wrong. So the COT number 2, that is challenge, opportunity, threat number 2, I'm talking about the media and media amplification. Amplifying means magnification. Child is the father of man is a saying. So the print media, TV, and the handheld cell phone media, they are all dads of each other. In the US, in 1960s and 70s, the print media, and in the 80s, the TV amplified and magnified and made it scary. Every citizen almost felt that he was being mugged or mugging or molestation was like happening somewhere down the lane. Now, 2 years ago, it happened in NYPD, New York Police Department. The online gang warfare because of social media led to actually offline and on the street warfare in the streets. Same study said young girls were committing more suicides after being trolled and after being unfriended, after being abused and so on. All the good work done by the Retd I spoke to you about, 95 hero, was going down. William Durant, interesting books he writes. I read in his book once. In a Polynesian, idyllic, beautiful island, such a situation arose where these adolescent girls were dying too fast, killing themselves to suicides. What was the new SOP that ordered by the ruler? All such dead bodies will be taken without any clothes in a procession. Suicides plummeted. I'm not saying that such kind of solutions can be the fix for today, which is only by the way. Media can make one feel secure or insecure. That's a fact. 80% of people's opinion, according to some recent survey of police, about police, is through media. So you can hate them, but you cannot completely disown them or keep them away. You have to manage them. Even a perceived security is all right that way. Security is a service and service is a product. A product like policing, it will depend, its rating will depend, it will be influenced by advertisements, sales, your civic action program and all, then sales pitch, word of mouth, more importantly, word of mouth, and more than all, the integrity of the producer, which is basically the police leadership, whether you are in the CRPFs or in the local Thana or managing the district. Technology, weaponized social media is a serious issue. Hyper-realistic digital falsification is a fact of life. I told you of NYPD just now, where the crime spike, the digital assassination, and social is a reality. What is more dangerous is the corrosion of state security itself. Man bites dog caption always gets a better TRP. With it, that means the falsity is riding faster than truth. Public safety can be undermined and chaos seeded in no time, and it's spread at electronic speed, and by the time you try to repair it, it may be too late. To add to these woes and worries, if media literacy is poor, then the social media literacy is even more abysmal. You can anonymously light a fire and withdraw. Your lip movement and mimicked words can be synced, and you may be made the arsonist. I hope my sermon today does not meet with that kind of fate. COT number 2.3, sub-point of the challenges, opportunities, and threats. WhatsApp and tweets are the jury, and Instagram. These can make an angel out of nobody, at the same time turn a lifetime work to dust. You did not even know that your platoon commander would have refused a Johnny, an eternal shammer, and who doesn't deserve leave, extra leave which he wanted. And that chap goes to town with a suicide threat, and the whole thing lands up on your head like a ton of bricks. Next door, another mediocre commander gets a good rating because he's managing the media and social media and things. Don't be dismayed. If your fundamentals are strong, this too will pass. You see the flip side of media and social media. I will tell my story. That's COP. there was a tradition of FIR cases and non-FIR cases. With a subtle approval of CM, I said I will bring all the cases on top, on the table. And so no working and things like that. This is a well-known work. Naturally, the crime graph shot up because the reality was seen by everybody. The crime beat media, because we are rubbing shoulders with these guys, their DNA is little like a corpse. The DNA is getting distorted like the corpse. They sniffed out and they wrote about it. In the assembly, the opposition started tearing the government to pieces. During our 5 years, we kept the crime down. I mean, crime down virtually, you know how. And Huda, Syed Munir Huda, the Home Secretary, quietly called me and said the conventional wisdom is the best. You would have guessed what I would have done. The challenge, opportunity, threat point number next one is not, media is not always our adversary. It can trigger the police reforms too. Crime and media are symbiotic. Now, for instance, in Jessica Lal case, immediately the police rating came down out of 10 to 2.7. You saw in the Sushant case recently how Maharashtra and Bihar, both the police were pitted against each other, and the panelists, other guys, the wise men, were foaming at the mouths and tearing the entire police, all the good work, the COVID work, and everything, partially getting corroded because of this kind of a hype. This is our planet. A digital flash mob has to be dispersed by a digital lathi charge, a digital tear gas, or a digital bullets. There is an area near Dal Lake, one of the most beautiful and biggest lakes in Srinagar. Brick batting was a passion and a pastime. 2 years ago, a small drone, the Netra kind of drone, chased a culprit, watched his home, and picked up. Spread and the whole street got reformed. It is like those Afghan militants whose the drones were hitting so precisely, they thought that all the vehicles had been spray painted by invisible paints. These myths and legends spread fast. So we should make the machines friendly to us and use it. Police reforms today. I'll just cite an example of a railway passenger, which Mr. Balachandran, the famous officer from who was in the 2611 inquiry, he had cited. The chap gets in Chennai, he gets into a haze because of biscuit bandit. He doesn't know where to give his complaint because he woke up only in Delhi. So the crime could have happened anywhere, and every station is, as per the CRPF, is supposed to register, but he gets tossed. Imagine if he tweets and he has got 100 followers and he has got a very big icon following him, and it becomes a movement, ripple effect, and so on. In future, so much so that the court itself may say tweet can be the FIR. It's not an unworking dilemma of mine would have been solved. By saying police reforms, I mean the quadrilateral, not just the cocky. I mean the police stations, the prosecution, jails, and what about the courts? When I'm talking about the media, social media, and the movement and the heft they can generate, it's like this: the banks are 24/7, your commerce is 24/7, your crime is 24/7, police station is 24/7, your autopsies are 24/7. Why not the courts? The question is in the offing. I don't see much further away in the horizon a situation may arise to chop and to liquidate 1.5 crore cases from the conveyor belt. We may be resorting to this 24/7. Days are not far off, especially when it picks up in the media and social media and becomes a public earning or a movement. Now, I will mention, there's a critical point here. I will mention about lifelong. While tactics means small steps, every small step which is critical to your survival is tactic. It's a new way a material is used or a method is modified or manipulated. Aircrafts, once upon a time, we all knew that they were meant for surveillance. They would not be bombing. But then somebody said, why don't they use them for bombing? These pilots used to carry a small revolver or pistol to kill themselves or to kill the adjoining pilot. That was the kind of speed, that was the kind of thinking in the mind. So how the tactics change and how it became strategy itself. The tactics at a very refined level become strategy itself. The change application, this is a good example of change application of material. Now drones are also similar. It's absolutely ditto. We can put it to a lot of other usages. Napoleon's artillery did not shoot at the Russians. It shot at the lake on which, the frozen lake on which they were moving, because it became cost effective and more simple. Because immediately it caved in and all these guys went in for a very icy burial. In the beginning, I am giving an example from the war and combat. In the beginning, it was very manly, and that was the only way man could fight hand-to-hand combat by using cold weapons. What do you mean by cold weapons? The sword or dagger and things like that, which you are holding in the hand, and you had to push him and pull him and wrestle and wrangle. That is how the whole war was. It included the axe also. You held this in your hands, it was very firmly held, and you fought. Found that why go so near? He threw a spear. Virtually the first missile used by the man. Then some other smart chap used a chariot, some other smart chap sat on a horse, and every time a smart chap did something, he was called a coward and he was thrashed. He was vilified. But then they found that the coward, so-called coward, smart fellow, is winning, so everybody fell in line. The same thing is happening to all the tactics. When the new tactic is winning, all will follow. How about tear gassing with drones? How about replacing even police firing, if at all, as a last resort? Police firing is something to be avoided, and it's and in my personal experience, I have always believed in a healthy lathi charge. It has a terrifying effect. The ripple effects are much more, and the quality of trauma is different here. Here the quantity Q2 is more, whereas in killing the Q1 is more. You completely deprive somebody of a person, and that emotional thing can never be filled. Therefore, I am with extreme caution. I am using the word in case you have to do the police firing, and maybe a drone is more efficient to execute such a task. There would be less collateral. Would it be ethical to use this? The point is very simple, at the same time complex. If you don't embrace technology, the guy opposite will in any case use it. BSF has already seized a number of M4 guns and AK-47s and grenades, etc., being sent by our neighbor by drones. Tactics and ethics keep chasing each other mutually. I mentioned to you why. I also tell you that it's like a bullet and armor race. You stop a bullet, you make an armor, then he gets an armor-piercing bullet, then you are flummoxed and you go for one step higher, and it's an eternal race. But I will now mention about ethics and tactics. So far I have been talking. That is a completely different thing. You are doing ethical twisting, or ethical arm twisting or adjustment for a successful tactic for a professional gain. There is nothing personal about it. Now I am talking about the personal thing. I don't want to sound like a big philosopher or some big guru, but this is about ethical power building. It is absolutely different. For it is a lifetime strategy. Strategy, it's a sheet anchor of your complete lifetime success and strategy. Wait a second. Let's not confuse ethics of tactics with ethical power building. Please think over again. I wish we could do a commercial break and I say that don't go away, I will just come back and I will catch you, so that you have that short gap to think over. If there is one point in this whole talk I want you to think over, look at this. Using tactics for a gain of the profession is a completely different cup of tea, whereas I am talking about ethical adherence, complete thing in your life as a strategy. It is not tactic, it is much more. It's a bundle of tactics together. The supreme tactic is called the strategy. We, the Indian police, are one of the most weaponized. With such power to take away life comes a great moral responsibility. Also the power of arrest. This is where the ethical power building and morality should remain your guiding star. In your talk, the goon should be sleeping with one eye open, waiting for you to knock at the doors, and the good man should be sleeping in peace. This is the bottom line. This should be a lifelong set. This should be your ambition. This should be what you should aspire to be. While in practice you may cut the ethical corners, like instances cited above, I have done it. We have purchased information. We have bulldozed a double agent into triple agent. Kannan, Chandamari Kannan, my brilliant number 2 in STF, knows a lot about it. He could sneak into prisons and talk to people as if he is not a non-cop and win their confidence, sort of undermine things for them and so on, in the national interest, in your professional interest. But this is not that. But no personal agenda should be there. If you keep it that way, that is the ethics and life strategy. That is when they are in sync. You can sleep in peace. This also means that you will expect men below to be like you. empathy, the fireman empathy is one thing. Fireman to fireman understand why there is a problem of because the fireman knows he may die anytime. So there is a mutual sympathy. This is not it. The cocky wall should not allow immoral things to happen. You should be alert. You should be magnanimous. You should be Catholicity should be there, but you should not tolerate. Then just put up a cocky wall and allow wrong things to happen. It's a trijunction of reasoning, inspiration, and instinct. What is reasoning is like this, it's a radar interpreting happenings around you. You may see a good guy who is getting punished because the system is bad, systemic weakness. The bad guy may skulk away and your internal radar tells you, the correct radar tells you, you don't waver, you stick to it, all will be okay. Or it may tell you, you see, you are wrong. Why are you not following him? He is happy. This fellow who skulked away is getting everything. The crooks are having a bad time and so don't be good. This is bad logic. As bad as saying milk is white, so all things white are milk. But our fundamentals should remain the same. I've been speaking of tech, artificial intelligence, digital stuff, media. I will now conclude very quickly by talking about the team building and training, which are important for coping this new ecology well. Your anchor is good, your sheet anchor, your compass middle is good, so you will be a good leader. Collaboration, making teams of teams will allow you to survive in the new blast of the modern times. Q1 is quality and Q2 is quantity. Q1 is superior. That is why many good police forces and armies are shrinking. The smart policing is the norm. So no point in asking for 222 people per 1 lakh population, UN norms, etc. Asking for nutri alone is enough. Making training fun is very important. Make it enjoyable and the most critical. If we don't know certain tricks, none of us will be, all-knowing. We should not be omniscient, but we should be prescient. We should know who will have the stuff. This is where I would say the difference between Disraeli and Gladstone, two prime ministers, cited about more than 100 years ago. One room you entered and came out with the feeling that you are good and intelligent. He gave you that feeling. In the other room you went and got the feeling that the prime minister is intelligent and you are a duffer. Same thing was studied at Cornell University about leadership. It talks about two different kinds of leaders. One is a leader who knows he is brilliant, and one who knows that he should be brilliant. I think I very clearly am not in the first category at all. I never had any pretensions. I had as a COP a brilliant, very, King George. George was my number 2. He was called King George because even with 1 year seniority, he will make it look like 10 years. Then you had Jalat Tripathi, present DGP Tamil Nadu, brilliant, an owl, on the prowl, all the time. Then you had a supremely fit Babu, about whom I mentioned, absolutely on the dot. And again, a brainy GUG Shastri. With all these 4 commanders, I didn't have to tinker with anything. I had to let them work, and they carried me on the shoulders. Now, what do I end up? This long, I think I prolonged my thing. I wanted to be concise. What do I end up today's my talk to you with? The khaki is a good color. It's the most beautiful color. White hats and white coats were dipped in tea decoction, and khaki was made in India. Like chess, like polo, like billiards, and 100 other things. Khaki is Indian invention. Now, D.P. Rangaswamy was my IG, very tough man, 1957, tough as a nail. All this, I think, KPS Bill Bajpayee. Most of these guys must have been slogging it out in the Mount Abu all the time outdoors, interacting with the terrorist instructor or instructor terrorist all the time. So they're all tough. So this guy, I resisted his posting of a sub-inspector. That is another thing I omitted to my district in Salem long time ago. I raised the phone, that black phone I told you about, and said, sir, you can shift me but not touch my jurisdiction. Why do you post somebody to a particular station, aircraft in Salem? He was aghast. He said, what do you mean and all? He tried to come out with theories like 36 CRPC, FIR can be anybody, the same power goes up. But I stood my ground. But he was a great officer, great chap. This man is the only man who gave me an adverse note. And I'm very proud of that adverse entry in my entire career. In ACR, it was conveyed to me because adverse note is supposed to be conveyed to me. It came in 1982. It said, too lenient to the team. So I took it as a compliment. I'm very proud to this day. I wonder how I could have been otherwise. So without my teams, where I would have been. So you keep that compass point and the middle of it, and you are at the dead center, if things whirl around you and move around you, you will not be either stirred or shaken. You are shake-proof, and your moral compass is high. Don't worry about the plus and minus all around. My best wishes to you. I'm sorry, Ram, I have exceeded my time. Thank you and all the best. Voice is not.
Can you hear me now?
First name.
Can you hear me now?
Now I
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Was I audible?
I'm sorry. So
Yes, I can hear you.
yes, you were audible. So thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
And now we are running slightly behind schedule, but you know we have more than 300 questions. It is not possible to ask you all the questions. So I will and more questions are coming. Don't worry. So some of the questions I have grouped together, and there are a number of questions about subordinate police officers. Can I say? Subordinate police officers aren't able to discharge their duties and responsibilities efficiently due to over interference by senior officers. This is one point being repeatedly asked by many officers here, that the senior officers coming and participating in investigating and everything. So that sort of takes away the initiative from the subordinate officers. So what is to be done? So I will ask 2 or 3 other questions together with this, so that we can. Another one is, it says, as an officer of only 5 years service, I do not find many good role models to look up to. And the third one, which is also connected, is that if I do the right thing, am I sure that I will get support from my seniors? These are some of the questions I have put together. About 15 questions I have put together.
All right. First, I will answer.
So you can answer them together.
Yeah, I will answer the middle question first. Middle question is about he's very desperate. He has got only 5 years service and is very upset about the fact that no role model. That is very untrue. It's very uncharitable for him to say. But why doesn't he become a role model? Why doesn't he himself become a role model in the 5 years? I went to Calcutta a few years ago, 6-7 years ago. I asked the airport. I asked who's your most impressive DG. They told me about a DG who had only 9 months of service. Then BSF, I went to Rajasthan and the neighborhood once. I asked something about. They said the DG, Mr. Kumar, had only 9 months or something like that, 10 months. But he did a remarkable job in all the border outposts. So the duration is not important. It's like they say, it's not the fight in the. It's the fight in the dog which is more important than the dog fight. How much of stuff you have. I would like to quote this Jack Welch. You know the Jack Welch, the famous fellow. He was a stammerer, but his mother made it a plus point. The mother told him, if you are not stammering, my dear son, your thought process is so fast that your tongue is not able to keep pace with that. She converted a handicap into a plus point. This Jack Welch said precisely what I am going to tell this man. If you want to change things, you change first. So if this gentleman says, I am very worried that no icons nearby, he should look for some good icon model and try to do something within the 5 years, not something very ridiculously silly or sensational or only to write on the tweet or Instagram, but something about which there is a passion, about which is Shri K, his thing, moral fiber is strong, he wants to do it, he will enjoy doing it, let him try that. So I don't think we should talk about the shortage of icons. Icons themselves are imperfect. I always say that don't look at any icon very thoroughly under scrutiny. Put a lens and look at any icon. You will find all some spots. So there is no diamond which is so perfect. So don't be looking for icons only. Each fellow will have a minus. So much for that. As far as the subordinate quandary, that the senior officer comes and sits and takes away, I gave it adequate importance, and I mentioned the traction engine of today, because everybody is watching you through either CCTV or monitoring you or listening to you or wireless. You are both audio visually, you are transparent, you are almost virtually digitally naked and transparent, and all your autonomy is gone or going away. This is the tragedy and also the reality of today. I already mentioned there is no clear one-word answer to it, because the technology is inherently like that. It is so penetrative. It tends to peep. It tends to peek into the system. So your silo is penetrated. You are gone, half the time gone. But with that, what can be done is that the officers at the critical level, like SP, you can insulate and you can still protect your officers from too much of intrusion from above. Which means if you're transfer-proofed and you don't get scared or worried about being checked out, you'll be able to protect yourself. Very often, when you think that you're ready to go, the chaps will tell you, "Don't go, wait." So if you get attached to a place too much, then you get worried. So my answer to this question is, this is a reality today. Technology is penetrating, technology is percolating deep down, and therefore the top man, DG, is able to say what is happening 500, 600 kilometers away in a remote place, which is never connected. This is an advantage the olden days we had, which you don't have. This is the difficulty. Therefore, the only way is the SP is still the linchpin of policing. SP or the commandant is equivalent in the paramilitary force of the commandant. He is like a demigod. He can be like a demigod. He need not be deified or worshipped or ask for this kind of koto, but he can protect the interest. Only he can intervene and slightly look after the autonomy and the independence which has been lost because of technology and because of senior officers coming down the line. So much. And the last point you said is what? The right. Yeah. If you do the right thing, there is no guarantee that you will get the support. You do the right thing not because you are getting support or no support. You do the right thing because your fiber is strong and you believe that if there is any difficulty imposed on you for doing the right thing, and a group next door is getting punished and temporarily patched today, these things will come out. It's like a dye which cannot last. It's not waterproof. After some time, this will get washed. So if you've got that strength in you, that is where your moral compass. You should take the providence or some higher spirit or higher thing than you, or your parents or people you respect, or even icons who matter to you as your role model, and say that I will not deviate, come what may. Come what may. What may is there? Suspension. Maybe at the extreme, they may even try to this. There was an IAS officer of Calcutta, outstanding chap. There was a case of court contempt. He was actually jailed. But what do you think happened to him? He came out purer man. There was a famous officer in Rajasthan. He was put in jail. My friend son-in-law. That guy came out more fit as a fiddle because he didn't do anything. Technically, there could have been something we don't know, but morally, he didn't do anything with a personal agenda. He came out purer. So if you are doing the right thing, don't get shaken. Don't get stirred. Don't be afraid of the temporary consequence. In the long run, your lifelong strategy is what I underline. In tactics and ethics, you can now jumble up things. They can commingle. They can juxtapose. They can interact. They can abuse each other. But in your lifetime strategy, hold firm. And you are the sheet anchor. That is the point I was trying to rub in.
Sir, I will not ask all the questions. Another two more questions I'll ask you. There are so many questions being, you are getting flooded with questions. But one question is about accountability. There is a question about how does accountability, what are the practical aspects of ensuring accountability in policing, and how does it interplay with your systems and values? So that is about accountability. So if you can, in fact, there are 3-4 questions on accountability. I have combined all of them together.
being a little old world guy, when you own the turf, like a cat, you went around and you mark the turf in your own way, or if you're both dirty, like a hippo, which circles his tails and marks his own way. But we had our own marking. It was very clear that you are protecting your turf ferociously. I don't know why it cannot happen. That means from each level the authority has been eroded. It looks very unfortunate. If some boss is taking away your power, so you come down to the SDO and take away his power. SDO goes to the inspector and takes away his powers. In one state, it happened a few years ago. The powers of posting of SHOs was taken away from the police officers and given to the legislatures. While we respect legislators and they are the law-making body, but to take away these powers and give it to them was not a great thing at all. Which means the SP will have to run the show with the people who are imposed on him, who are not his choice. I mean, that's okay. If you are a great leader, you will be running the show with what you have. You cannot be all the time asking for the best. You convert a team with the best team. But the point is the loyalty, the double agent kind of thing. He'll be partly working for you, for the Namke Vaste, and he'll be serving the interest of somebody else. This is very, very deleterious and very dangerous and very invidious for the police system. Now, the answer to your question about accountability, the delineation of powers is very clear under the Police Act, under the police standing orders, under the law. But the point is, the distortions happen very often in a subtle way by managing some circulars or giving indirect threats to you by manipulating and so on. So if you hold forth, everything, most of the things you're talking about is well delineated. Who will investigate what kind of crime? Everybody can look at the case diary, but nobody can interfere and tell you to do this against your conscience. You are very clear about collation of evidence and collection of evidence that you are going one direction. Somebody wants to twist your tail and change the whole line of work. That you have got every right to say that either you take my thing or I don't. I am not endorsing. There are many good officers who have not endorsed the decisions which are imposed on them in various organizations. In the state police forces, I can think of about 10, 12 cases. So it is happening all the time that people protest a very unholy kind of an intervention, unethical kind of intervention. That is what you should do. So when you talk about accountability, most of it, I would repeat, is already delineated. It is not as if it is very hazy and it is not very clear. It is all clearly. It's only a manipulation which you have to resist, which you have to say this much and no more.
There is a question coming from a very respected person in our community. He has asked, he says that there is one aspect which concerns me, maybe unnecessarily. I feel that professional hygiene in training of police has taken a big hit.
So this is very, I think it's a dart which is also coming at me. I was personally responsible for training 2 batches. So I used to tell these guys certain things about physical shape and try to get this and all. But despite the sermons, like a prodigal son, somebody is not listening to me. How do you hold me accountable for all my children? Some of my children are wayward. Some of my children, most of them are great. Most of them are doing like icons. They are doing icons at their own level in different states. But some guys are gone little this way, that way. Can I be condemned for the entire training? I was the SP, the director NPA. So you don't blame the entire training. There are very many other things we can go into. Whether the selection itself, something needs to be further done. I'm not blaming the UPSC system. There's nothing greater than the UPSC system. Fantastic. So is it the wrong man who has already got him? Or did these ideas get planted in his mind? The hygiene, he became dirty after he left the NPA? We really don't know. At what point his hygiene aspect came down? At what point it became a sticker? We really don't know. So I find it very difficult to answer this question that you put the blame on training. I don't think. You put the blame on even the mentor. The first man who is training him should put him on the track and tell the right things. And the moment he makes his first slip up, before the slip becomes a slide and slide becomes a sink and he gets marooned, somebody should give him a kick in the wherever and then correct. So to hold the training as completely responsible is not correct, because training gives you some skills. Training gives you a little bit of aptitudinal maneuvering. So what better trainer you can have than Atul Karwal? Tomorrow you say that one of his fellows went wonky. Can you say that he has not done his job? So therefore, in aptitude, skills, and the other one, the emotional aspect, your emotional quotient, there are only a certain amount which a training can put in. So in the aptitude check, perhaps we can see whether anything more needs to be done. There are a lot of training need analysis being done. So many times it has happened. Even you and the foundation have tried to do certain things, but there is a limitation for all this. It is ultimately the man. One day he suddenly gets kicked around like a ball, like a rolling stone, and he feels he has been penalized and punished for no fault of his. Whereas another crook is thriving next door. Suddenly his moral compass starts, rattling, and then he becomes a wimp. His whole notion and his whole firmness starts wilting. This is the most dangerous thing. That is what I said. If you are the center of the compass, nothing will happen to you. So don't worry about, don't put the whole, attribute the whole thing to a training. There are hundreds of other things in it. That's my simple answer.
Sir, one last question. In fact, there are so many questions coming now also. I'm overwhelmed by questions. But one last question. This is, of course, one part of the question is that our policing still continues to be colonial in nature and centralized, and little scope for subordinates to work independently, etc., etc. But what would be your advice to police leaders to make sure that their subordinates grow intellectually, ethically, and professionally?
All right. See, this is a separate topic for the next lecturer or whoever. I think this point has been talked about. When Robert Peel gave the baton-wielding London Bobby a different kind of style, he gave the Irish armed constabulary and the Indian police a different style, different methodology, different set of values, different set of approach. The whole philosophy of policing was naturally colonial. So from looking at his point of view, without being very pejorative or contemptuous of what the British did, they did good and bad. Any colony would have done it those days. They have done some plus and sort of minus also. But the point is, in colonial policing, we inherited a tradition, and we have been getting over that. So the debate of whether police is a service or a force was a favorite and hot topic during our induction times. Now it is no more. They're not even discussing. It is very clearly understood that it should be a service, a forceful service, of course, not a coercive force alone of the masters, colonial masters, but a forceful service, a tool in the social engineering. In social scavenging, they have a vital role. Therefore, it's a completely different style we inherited, and they are jettisoning the baggage one by one. Now, within the system, there are a lot more of reforms. Some of them have happened, a lot more need to happen, so that there is a certain kind of one simple difference between what is a chap in London and you are different. You are not an officer of Constitution. He is an officer of Constitution. Here, you are a sovereign government servant. You are a member of the sovereign body, and you've got a sovereign immunity in case you do something under the color of office, which is a plus and a minus. Because you have this immunity, and that fellow doesn't have his immunity, he is completely answerable for any omission of anything, any commission, any deviation or from his chartered duty. So he may be able to charge a very big VIP without any problem. But if he has made a mistake, he will be held answerable. Here, before charging a VIP, you will be thinking twice and thinking in a different. Your thinking itself will be completely different because you have become a member, a government servant. A part of the immunity is given to you, you have become a servant. So it's completely different. So we are in two different channels. To expect us to overnight jump ships and get into that is a pipe dream. But as I mentioned in my during the course of lecture, When you are talking about 24/7, it's definitely not a probability. It is quite a bright possibility. The other changes we are talking about, a man who's sitting I'm a victim somewhere and I don't get my FIR registered, so I create a movement which makes me that no FIR is a problem anywhere. That itself is a very significant thing. Similarly, the authority to whomever it is belongs, he is able to exercise authority. That is the ultimate thing of delegation responsibility. Power comes with responsibility. These things are not in the ideal position. I concede. I myself told you about how the authority of transfers has been taken away. So we are making a lot of progress in certain areas, but we need to move much more. So, but we can't be still blaming after 70 and odd years the colonial masters, because at that point of time, 47, 48, it was true, and slowly we are jettisoning the baggage. There is still quite an amount of baggage we have jettisoned. That is where very burdensome job IPF, the foundation chief, Ram and others are doing. We are also very much a part of that. And I wish you all the best in your endeavors to mitigate these kind of difficulties which make the Indian police strong. It is not because we want to make you brawny and make you physically powerful or something. It is because we want to make the consumer, who is ultimately the public, more safe. A safe India is a better India. The security and perception of security is very vital for any development. And you are one of the members. You are among the coordinators, but you are not the only one. So when you're talking about police being strengthened, I'm not talking about the police stations or police systems alone being strengthened. There's a whole lot of policing being strengthened. But you are the frontal piece in this whole architecture. Therefore, I fully concede the point that we have inherited certain baggage which has not been fully jettisoned, and we need to. I will stop there.
So, thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Vijay Kumar, for this very enlightening lecture. And we all enjoyed your talk. And I'm also thankful to every one of the participants who logged in today and listened to this enlightening conversation with Shri Vijay Kumar. I'm sorry that we could not answer or take up all the questions. In fact, so many questions have been coming. So there is a physical limitation. So we have not been able to answer all the questions, but your concerns are very well appreciated, and we will take note of those concerns. There were a lot of suggestions also that have come in this process. So we will take note of those suggestions also. So thank you very much, everyone, Mr. Vijay Kumar, and every one of the members of the audience. Once again, thank you from the bottom of my heart, and also on behalf of the Indian Police Foundation. Thank you, sir. Bye.
Thank you.
Yes,
all the best. Thank you, Ram.
Yes, now you can, it is also requested